Good morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe is off this morning. We're going to get started this Tuesday with the devastation in Texas after Hurricane Beryl, which is now a tropical depression, killed at least 7 people in the U.S. More than 2 million residents in Texas still do not have power this morning, and officials say they could be in the dark for days. The trail of destruction is life-altering, like this house in Houston, obliterated by a fallen tree that trapped a man inside until an emergency crew could rescue him, or this RV trailer in Brazoria County that appears to have been flipped over by high winds and floodwaters. Some counties saw more than a foot of rain in less than 24 hours. Now, emergency teams are working around the clock to restore power and assess the damage. Meanwhile, Beryl is moving north. It's threatening parts of Arkansas, Missouri, Indiana, with heavy rain and flooding and possibly even tornadoes. We, of course, have team coverage for you this morning on the aftermath of this storm from all angles. Meteorologist Angie Lassman is standing by with the forecast, and the mayor of Pearland, Texas, will join us in just a moment with more on his town's recovery efforts. But we're going to get started with NBC News correspondent Kathy Park, who has the latest from Houston, Texas.
Guys, good morning. Texas is now in recovery mode after taking a direct hit from Beryl yesterday. The storm is now being blamed for knocking out power to millions at the height of the storm. Also, 7 confirmed fatalities so far. One Houston Police Department employee among those killed after traveling to work, getting trapped in the floodwaters along the interstate. We were following the storm very closely. Shortly after it made landfall in Matagorda, Texas, it started to wreak a lot of havoc in the coastal communities. We saw water creeping up, especially into the low-lying areas, turning neighborhoods into rivers, essentially. And then the storm pushed farther inland, closer to Houston. Also, a lot more flash flooding that we were following throughout the day yesterday, which led to several water rescues. And, of course, the lingering issue this morning, ongoing power outages, hundreds of thousands of customers still without power. CenterPoint, which is the main electric company here in Houston, says they hope to have 1 million customers restored by the end of day tomorrow. But the other issue that we are following is the ongoing heat. The heat continues to build. The heat index today could reach close to 105 degrees. So folks here in Houston and across Texas, they will be sweltering in the heat. But it's not just Texas. This extreme heat is something that we're tracking coast to coast. Back to you.
All right, Kathy, thank you very much, and please stay safe. I'm now joined by Kevin Cole, who is the mayor of Pearland, Texas. It's a city just south of Houston. Mayor, good morning. Thank you very much. We so appreciate your time on what I can imagine is a busy and tough morning for you. First, how are you doing? How's your town doing this morning?
Well, first off, good morning, Savannah. Our city is doing wonderful. We are resilient. We take lots of effort to prepare for a storm like this, not only during hurricane season, but outside of that season as well. So we were prepared to take on anything that Beryl decided to send our way. And so as we move into the recovery efforts, we've been doing damage assessment and those types of things to know exactly where our efforts need to go over the days to come.
So tell us, where does those resources need to go? How is cleanup looking? What are you facing this morning?
Yeah, what we're facing for the most part with a Category 1 hurricane that Beryl was, we're mainly facing a lot of wind damage, trees. You can imagine trees down, as mentioned, the power lines being restored, fences down. We haven't seen really any widespread building damage or house damage. There's going to be some roof damage across our city. To speak of, obviously businesses with some signs down, those types of things. But in the grand scheme of things, I've seen it much worse with other storms. So we will be making decisions this morning whether or not to deploy our disaster cleanup crews for debris haul off and those types of things in the wake of this storm.
Did this storm meet expectations in terms of what you had prepared for?
It did. We've got good forecasters in the Houston area that really keep up on this year in and year out. And so we knew. What we didn't know going into yesterday is exactly where it would make landfall. These storms always adjust at the last minute, so you never know exactly what you're going to get until the storm comes your way. We ended up being a part of our city, less than 5 miles from the eye wall. And going into it, we were expecting to be a little bit further away than that. But as you say, you prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
What's your biggest concern and biggest priority as you start this cleanup?
Biggest priority right now is to get power restored to people. We've been on the phones with our CenterPoint representatives to know exactly what, where, and how to get things back up. We have critical facilities, from water and wastewater facilities, that are on backup power as we speak. We have hospitals in the area. In fact, the building that I'm in is our Emergency Operations Center, and it's been on full backup power for well over 24 hours now. And so we want to get critical facilities up and running with the hopes that those neighborhoods and businesses around those will certainly be coming back up along with it. So we want to get as much power restored today as humanly possible.
Absolutely. What's your message to your residents right now? How can they help you help them? What resources are available to them? What should they know?
The biggest thing, well, as far as resources are concerned, we're going to be opening up our recreation center today as a cooling center to be able to make sure that people can get in there. It is on backup power. Fortunately, with that, we are able to use that facility to get people in there. If you have durable medical equipment that needs to be charged, you'll be able to get into that facility and charge your equipment. Obviously, for phone backup and charging, you'll be able to get in and be able to do that as well. We're going to be working with our county to get our libraries hopefully open as cooling centers as well. As mentioned, this is going to be some very hot day, reaching into the triple digits. So we want to get those resources deployed as CenterPoint and others in the background, work to get power restored.
Absolutely. Mayor Kevin Cole of the city of Pearland, Texas, we appreciate your time this morning. Best of luck in these recovery efforts.
Thank you.
For a closer look at Beryl's continued heavy rains and where they're headed next, let's check in on your Morning News Now weather forecast with Angie Lastman here in studio with us. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. It's been officially 2 weeks since this system came off the coast of Africa as a tropical wave and has made 3 landfalls now. And you guessed it, we are not done with it just yet. It is weakening. It's going to continue to do that over the next 24 hours, but we're still leaving many folks dealing with some heavy rains and the potential for severe weather today thanks to this very system. 25 million people right now are under these flood watches. You can see this big batch of moisture. That is what's associated with the weakened Beryl at this time. Little Rock to St. Louis and out towards Paducah. You've been dealing with the rain on and off all morning long. We've got some of these showers that are working out of parts of the Great Lakes and into portions of Canada, but all that moisture is going to continue to lift to the north. As I mentioned, winds now down to 30 miles per hour. We're likely just going to see this become a remnant low here in the short term, but in the meantime, it's still going to be something that we'll have to watch for, bringing us again the rain and the severe weather. When we talk about the severe weather, specifically across parts of the Ohio Valley, as we get through not just the afternoon hours today, but into the evening too, we're going to watch for a slight risk from Paducah, including Evansville, Louisville, Cincinnati, all of that on the table for folks in Indianapolis as well. We'll have the threat for some strong wind gusts as well as maybe some hail, but tornadoes are something that we'll be watching even into the evening hours. On top of that, some additional rainfall, not just where we're seeing the rain falling now, but stretching up into Metro Detroit and as far south as Arkansas. Those are the spots where we're going to look at the most significant rainfall. And especially if you get some of that rain happening and the system not moving at a very fast pace, we'll see likely the flooding concern. Isolated amounts could total up to 8 inches, but I think a more widespread kind of range is going to be anywhere from 1 to 3 inches. Notice the areas of New England and the Northeast that get in on this as well. This will be something that we see lasting through at least the next couple of days. So today, tomorrow, that flash flood concern will be there again across parts of the midsection of the country. And the heat, this has been the secondary story over the past couple of days, but it is really, really impressive. We've got 139 million people on the East Coast and on the West Coast dealing with these heat alerts. And here's why. The heat and the humidity is the big thing that we're talking about across parts of the Gulf Coast, stretching up into the Northeast. You've got Washington, D.C. with an actual temperature of 97 degrees today. It'll feel like 106. Out west, meanwhile, of course, it's not the humidity. humidity, but it's the actual temperatures. Las Vegas is set to hit 118 degrees. That is running way above normal. We'll see dozens of records across this region, likely broken through the day today. And check out those records as we get into tomorrow. And again, Las Vegas, 118. That would break the current record for that date that is set at 116. Phoenix, you're not going to be far from record-breaking temperatures. In Palm Springs, likely going to tie a record tomorrow with a high of 121 degrees. You look as far north, Savannah, as parts of the Pacific Northwest in its 90s. High 90s, triple digits, so it's really a dangerous kind of heat wave unfolding for folks there.
That's where people there might not have air conditioning.
Exactly.
They're going to have to head to a cooling center, things like that. All right, Angie, thank you so much. Well, this morning there are mounting questions over President Biden's health ahead of a crucial week on the world stage that could make or break his re-election campaign. In a letter released Monday, White House physician Kevin O'Connor said President Biden was visited by a neurologist 3 times in the last 3 years as part of his annual physical exams. He added that the president has not seen a neurologist outside of his annual physical. Well, this disclosure came after NBC News had confirmed that a Parkinson's specialist visited the White House at least 8 times in 8 months, according to public visitor logs. Questions over the president's health come amid growing calls from some within the Democratic Party for him to step aside in the election. NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba joins us now. Monica, good morning. So the White House on the defensive yesterday as it tried to explain those particular neurologist visits, but help us understand what's going on here if we have this discrepancy with this number of times that a Parkinson's specialist visited the White House on these visitor logs. How do these two things square up?
Yeah, and Savannah, the White House really wasn't that forthcoming on this point, specifically yesterday when we were pressing them to help us understand. They were saying that there were reasons for which they couldn't disclose the nature of or the reason for specifically this Parkinson's specialist visiting the White House complex at least 8 times from last summer to this spring. And they were saying that, of course, there are thousands of people on the sprawling White House complex who sometimes could be seen by these kinds of specialists. And in particular, this specialist comes from Walter Reed, so he treats anybody who is associated with the military and is tied to the White House as well. But finally, this did spill into the White House press briefing where you can see that things got a little bit tense. Take a listen to at least one exchange.
So I am telling you that he has seen a neurologist 3 times while he has been in this presidency. That's what I'm saying. I am telling you that he has seen them 3 times. Has the president been treated for Parkinson's? No. Is he being treated for Parkinson's? No, he's not. Is he taking medication for Parkinson's? No.
So it was a little bit unclear why the press secretary couldn't just say that she had spoken to Dr. Kevin O'Connor, who's the president's personal physician, who also, we should note, had at least 1 meeting with this Parkinson's specialist in January at the White House. But that letter last night did explain that the president has only been evaluated by a neurologist in the context of his physical. And as you said there, Savannah, which is important to repeat, the White House and the personal doctor of the president say that in February, when he was checked for anything like Parkinson's or age-related illnesses, there was no evidence of that, and he's not being treated for anything like that, at least as of February.
So, Monica, of course, this all comes as the president continues to deal with the fallout from his debate performance and also to try to resist these calls from lawmakers within his own party to step out of the race. What is the latest there?
And we saw this message emerge a little bit over the weekend, and when the president was traveling in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, he essentially said that he doesn't believe what the pundits are saying. And even if there are lawmakers who are calling for him to step aside, he said he wanted to go and meet the electorate, meet voters, and see if they still really wanted him to be the nominee, which he argues, according to his experiences in the last couple of days, is the case. So he really struck a defiant tone. And here's a little bit of what he had to say on MSNBC's Morning Joe when he called in.
I'm getting so frustrated by the elites. Now, I'm not talking about you guys, but about the elites in the party who they know so much more. But if any of these guys don't think I should run against me, go ahead, announce the president. Challenge me at the convention. The bottom line here is that we're not going anywhere. I am not going anywhere.
Yesterday, he also spent some time, Savannah, trying to calm anxious donors by participating in a Zoom call with them. And he spoke to the Congressional Black Caucus members on a Zoom last night as well. And they have come out in strong support of him following that, too.
Monica, the president is set to face another very public test over the next few days. Washington hosting the NATO summit, the president on the world stage. Talk to us about what we can expect there and the pressure that puts the president under.
Yeah, and today you're already going to see him delivering some remarks to really kick off this summit. Tomorrow, there will be bilateral meetings, but what a lot of people are watching for, Savannah, is a solo news conference that the president is going to have on Thursday to wrap the global summit. And he hasn't done one of those in Washington or at the White House in more than 20 months. So it's significant that he's going to be taking and facing all of these questions in a more unscripted format than in what we've seen since the debate on several occasions.
All right,
Savannah.
Monica Alba, as always, thank you for your reporting. Well, on the Republican side of the presidential race, former President Trump is attempting to distance himself from a controversial plan floated by some allies and supporters for a potential second term in the White House. The plan, dubbed Project 2025, has been used by his political opponents against him. NBC News Now anchor Hallie Jackson breaks down what's in the plan and what the former president is saying about it.
Former President Donald Trump in a new post online insisting he knows nothing about Project 2025 with no idea who's behind it, calling some of the controversial 900-page proposal to overhaul the federal government ridiculous and abysmal. The comments coming after Democrats pushed to tie Mr. Trump to the plan, created not by the Trump campaign itself, but by some former Trump administration officials working with conservative think tank the Heritage Foundation. Its president coming under fire just last week for this.
We are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
So what is Project 2025?
What we're doing is systematically preparing to march into office and bring a new army of aligned, trained, and essentially weaponized conservatives ready to do battle against the deep state.
That battle plan outlining several key proposals, including a federal government under much tighter presidential control. Even now, independent agencies like the Department of Justice would answer almost entirely to Mr. Trump. And it calls for replacing thousands of civil employees with political appointees, presumably loyal to the former president. Project 2025 calls for more spending for a U.S.-Mexico border wall, a signature Trump proposal back in 2016.
Build that wall.
And on this side of the border, big cuts to corporate taxes and income tax for America's highest earners. The plan taking aim at what it calls woke culture warriors, calling for deleting a long list of terms from all federal rules, including sexual orientation, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and gender identity, and eliminating the education department. It's not uncommon for think tanks to create wish lists for governments in waiting, but with the race for the White House all but deadlocked, Democratic opposition to the plan has ramped up against what Congressman Jared Huffman, behind the Stop Project 2025 task force, calls a dystopian plot.
I think what troubles me the most is just the explicitness of the extremism, and the people who are saying these things are the most inner circle leaders of Donald Trump's political world.
Those behind Project 2025 accuse Democrats of fear-mongering.
This really would tee up an incoming administration to achieve more than we've ever seen under a conservative president before.
All right, thanks to Hallie Jackson for that reporting. Well, the president of the Heritage Foundation says Project 2025, quote, does not speak for any candidate or campaign. Well, former President Donald Trump has also been weighing in on the pressure facing President Biden to step aside in the wake of his debate performance. Mr. Trump told Fox News' Sean Hannity that he believes Mr. Biden will stay in the race. NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard joins us now with more on this. Vaughn, good morning. Great to have you in studio with us. So tell us a little bit more about what the former president said about Mr. Biden, about staying in this race when he made this Fox appearance.
Right. We should note that he has been off the campaign trail for 12 days now. Nobody has seen him out there publicly hitting the stump since that debate in Atlanta. Of course, a lot of the attention has been on Joe Biden and Donald Trump. In this interview with Sean Hannity, he suggested that he's waiting to make his VP announcement until he sees whether Joe Biden stays in the race or not. He suggested if Joe Biden were to leave the race, he thought Kamala Harris would take on that spot. Of course, for Donald Trump, he has allowed that storyline for the Democratic Party here to play out. But we should note that today he is going to be holding his first campaign event since that Georgia debate down in Doral, Florida.
You've also been combing through this small task that you've been doing for us, this new draft platform released by the GOP, kind of outlining stances on certain issues. Tell us what you're finding here and how important it is.
Right. You know, Hallie's piece they're talking about Project 2025 was notable because that was an outside organization that was allied with 100 other conservative groups to build that more than 900-page document that could be really used as a roadmap of policies to hand to the next Trump administration. And that is where there was some pushback. And in fact, I was supposed to have an interview with the head of that group just yesterday. But after Donald Trump pushed back against their efforts, that interview was canceled. And about the same time, the GOP Platform Committee for the Republican National Committee, they passed this platform that Donald Trump said that he stood by and approved of. And in that, there is one particularly notable difference between the platform now versus in 2016, the last time the GOP put out their platform. And it's on abortion. In 2016, they called for what they referred to as a human life amendment, essentially a federal abortion ban. This go around, they said that abortion decisions should be left to the states. Of course, for the GOP, they understand the ramifications that a majority of Americans are in support of women's reproductive rights, and they are understanding that there are political repercussions, and that's where you see a little bit more watered down version of their abortion policy this go around.
Absolutely interesting to see. Okay, also, where do things stand on a running mate pick for Mr. Trump?
That's the big timeline question now, because less than a week from now in Milwaukee next Monday is the beginning of the Republican National Convention. It's going to last all week here. And of course, Donald Trump has not announced his running mate yet. Is it North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum? Is it Florida Senator Marco Rubio? Is it Ohio Senator J.D. Vance? Is it somebody else? He has that rally in Doral, of Florida today. He's got another rally outside of Pittsburgh on Saturday. So potentially could it become any time between now and then? Or he could wait until Milwaukee, to the actual convention, to surprise the convention goers and announce his VP there. So I would say it'd be sometime within the next week.
Sometime within the next week. That'll be some big news. Vaughn, as always, thank you. Great to have you on set with us.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.